Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to a new installment of Asharis Answers. It's been a while, and inshallah we are going to resume with regular uploads again. So let's begin. Alhamdulillah, as-salatu was-salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So today's topic will be on Tahseen Taqbeeh, yani declaring something to be good and bad. So here the disputer, he says that the Ash'ari deny that the intellect and fitrah play a role in ruling matters to be good or bad. They say, he says regarding us, the sole determining factor is legislation. So only by revelation, legislation, we come to know good and bad. And he adds some of what's built upon this idea due to their false principles is their statement. At times, legislation brings that which is evil according to the intellect. So in the Sharia, there would be things present that are evil according to the intellect. The example the Ash'ari give is that of slaughtering animals and causing them pain, whereas they didn't commit any sin. So there's a lot to dissect here. And let's get into it. Now, first of all, what the disputer here is attributing to the Ash'ari is not the actual position they hold, of course, as you could imagine. Because would any, sane, rational person not see the good in truthfulness, trustworthiness, in uprightness, and in cleanliness? Obviously he would. And likewise, would the sane rational person not see the evil or the repugnance of treachery, oppression, and filthiness? Okay, in a lot of matters, the rational person is able to comprehend and observe the goodness and the repugnance in matters. Okay. Although the particular details of those might be a point of contention or a point of obscurity, in the sense that it might be difficult for people to understand it by reason and fitrah. Okay. Now, the reality of the matter is that man's perception of a matter being good or evil isn't the basis for its being obligatory and rewarded, or prohibited and punished, respectively, by God. It is only by legislation. Okay, and that is the point that should be clarified, and that is basically what the disputer missed here. He overlooked, knowingly or unknowingly, who knows. But yeah, that is that. So that us determining a thing to be good or bad is not what causes Allah to make it good or bad. That is the takeaway here. Okay. Now here we have a quote of Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi. He says, اعلموا أن العقول تدل على صحة الصحيح واستحالة المحال فأما الأحكام الشرعية في الوجوب والحظر والإباحة فطريق معرفتها ورود الخبر والأمر من الله تعالى. So Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi says, know that the intellect signifies the soundness of a sound matter and the impossibility of an impossible matter. As for the Shari'i rulings regarding obligations, prohibitions, and permissibility, then the only way to find out about them, the only way to know about them, to become cognizant of them, is by the transmission of a report or command from Allah. Okay. Moving on. Another quote is by Imam al-Haramain, Imam al-Juwayni, and he says, العقل لا يدل على حسن شيء ولا قبحه في حكم التكليف وإنما يتلقى التحسين والتقبيح من موارد الشرع وموجب السمع. He says the intellect doesn't signify the goodness or repugnance of a matter with regards to taklif. The only way to find out about goodness and repugnance is by sources of legislation and entailments of revelation. Okay. Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi, he says, لا نزاع في أن نعرف بعقولنا كون بعض الأشياء ملائما لطباعنا وبعدها وبعضها منافرا لطباعنا، وأيضا نعلم بعقولنا أن العلم صفة كمال والجهل صفة نقص، إنما النزاع في أن كون بعض الأفعال متعلق الذم في الدنيا والعقاب في الآخرة، وكون البعض الآخر متعلق المدح في الدنيا والثواب في الآخرة، هل هو لأجل صفة عائدة إلى الفعل، أو ليس الأمر كذلك بل هو محض حكم الشرع. So Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi says, there's no dispute regarding the fact that we know through our intellect some matters to agree with our natures and some to be aversive to us. We also know through intellect that knowledge is an attribute of perfection, whereas ignorance is a defective attribute. The real dispute lies in that some actions are disparaged in this world and followed by punishment in the afterlife, whereas other actions are praised in this world and followed by reward in the afterlife. Now, is that because of an intrinsic attribute of the action, or isn't that so, and is it merely a legislative ruling? Okay, now a similar sentiment is also actually expressed by the shuyukh of the Hanabila, by a sheikh of the Hanabila, Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la, and he says, ولا مجال للعقل في تحسين شيء من المحسنات ولا تقبيح شيء من المقبحات، وإنما يعلم ذلك من جهة الرسل الصادقين من قبل الله تعالى. Now, he says the intellect has no place in declaring anything or determining anything from the good acts to be good or from the repugnant acts to be repugnant. That is only known through truthful messengers sent by Allah. Okay, so again, the other thing here is that the disputer was attributing to the Ash'ari that we hold that the Sharia sometimes brings contains rulings that are evil according to the intellect. And he's not even bothering to explain or delve into the details of this. So what the Ash'ari actually mean with that is that many intellects that have not been illuminated with the Quran, with the light of the Quran and Sunnah, they might be aversive to some Shari'i rulings, or they might object to it or reject it, right? For example, they might object to tayammum being allowed when there's no water, or riba being haram, or even a little bit of wine being haram, or the consumption of the slaughtering of a mushrik, that being haram, as well as gold and silk being haram for the men. He might also object to have an issue with statues being haram and patriarchy, like the man being preferred or holding a higher rank than the woman, and a man being able to marry multiple women, etc., etc. So he might be aversive and object to these things that are rulings that appear in the Sharia, right? But no consideration is given to personal desires that people might have. Okay, the ruling is that the intellects ought to submit and surrender to the ruling of Allah and His messengers, and it's not upon them or on them to twist and distort the meanings of the texts in order for them to fit their personal desires. And this is according to ijma', like that's not done. Okay, what the Ash'ari are not saying is that some Shari'i rulings are evil according to a ruling of the intellect. Okay, that is only the case for those people whose intellects float in an orbit of personal desires, personal desires and devilish whisperings. Or as for the just and fair intellect, which is free from desires and actually is enwrapped with wisdom. Now, for it will be impossible that it is aversive or rejects any ruling that appears in Islamic legislation. And that will be either due to some of the goodness becoming apparent to him, or because he simply suspends any judgment due to it being hidden from him, right? The disputer also attributed to the Ash'ari regarding what he just mentioned about some things appearing in the Sharia that are permissible but evil according to the intellect. The example that he mentioned was of the slaughtering of animals, whereas they haven't committed any sin. So it's incorrect to understand this example except in the light of the ruling, in light of the principle we mentioned earlier, and that is that the repugnance of a matter that has been permitted in Islamic legislation, for example, the slaughtering of animals, that is only going to be apparent in the minds, in the intellects of those of the people of desires and devilish whisperings, not in the intellects of those people who are just and fair and possess wisdom. Now, here is another quote of Imam al-Juwayni regarding pains and pleasures. Okay, he says, فإذا وقعت من فعل الله تعالى فهي منه حسن ولا يعترض عليه في حكمه واضطربت الآراء على من لم يلتزم تفويض الأمور إلى الله تعالى. Now, he says, if they occur by an act of Allah, then they are good. His ruling is not objected to, and views differ on he who doesn't stick to relegating matters to Allah. And then the final quote from Asharis, and that is مذهب أهل الحق أن العقل لا يدل على حسن الشيء وقبحه في حكم التكليف من الله شرعا. ثم قال فإنا نرى كثيرا من الأفعال تقبح منا ولا تقبح منه كإلام البريء وإهلاك الحرث والنسل فإن نفس الإغراق والإهلاك يحسن منه تعالى ولا يقبح وذلك منا قبيح. Shahristani says, the position of the truthful people is that the intellect doesn't signify the goodness or repugnance of matter with regards to taklif from Allah by way of the Sharia. He adds, we often see actions that are repugnant when performed by us, but not when carried out by Allah. Take, for example, the harming of an innocent person or destroying a civilization of mankind. Yet the same drowning and destruction is good when carried out by Allah and not repugnant. Yet when we do it, it is repugnant. Okay, so just a few things, concluding remarks. Firstly, Ash'aris hold that revelation determines what is good and evil. It's not that reason determines good and evil, upon which God then makes it obligatory, permissible, or unlawful. Second thing is actions aren't good or evil intrinsically. And the third is, if anything present in the Sharia is deemed evil by someone's intellect, then this is due to his intellect being polluted by desires and devilish whisperings. Okay? I hope that has clarified a few things on this topic. And please share this video with others, like, subscribe, and inshallah, more is coming soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.